In this video, we will learn about the topic innate immunity. Here, the immunity is derived from a Latin term called immunis. Immunis means exempt. Immunity is the state of protection from infectious diseases or pathogens. That means immunity is the ability to resist infections, or it is the state of protection from the infectious diseases or pathogens. Immunity is categorized into two categories, that is innate immunity and adaptive immunity. Innate and adaptive immunity, and in this video we will mainly focus on innate immunity. Innate immunity is present since birth. That means since birth we have this innate immunity, and innate immunity is ready for the immediate action against infections or pathogens. And innate immunity is non-specific type of immunity. Non-specific in the sense, innate immunity is not specific for any one pathogen, but rather it acts against all the pathogens. Okay, it acts against almost any pathogen. So it is innate immunity is non-specific type of immunity. When it comes to adaptive immunity is highly specific. That is antigen specific T cells or B cells will be present in case of adaptive immunity. But innate immunity is non-specific type of immunity when it is compared to adaptive immunity. Innate immunity is induced or activated very quickly or rapidly. That is, innate immunity is activated within minutes or hours. And innate immunity provides the first line of defense to our body. Innate immunity provides first line of defense to our body by way of its physical and chemical barriers. Innate immunity has no memory, or here immunological memory is not present. That means here innate immunity doesn't rely on the previous exposure. Okay, if one pathogen has already attacked us, okay, and it is that pathogen is attacking us for the second time, but the innate immunity responds in the same way it has responded during the first time. Okay, that is innate immunity has no memory or no immunological memory. Now coming to the topic elements of innate immunity. Elements of innate immunity are physical and chemical barrier and cellular responses or defense by the cells of the innate immunity. Here this physical barrier and chemical barrier makes up the barrier immunity, and this physical barrier and chemical barrier together makes the first line of defense. Okay, and this cellular defense or cellular response acts against the second line of defense. When this first line and the second line of defense fails, then comes adaptive immunity, that is the third line of defense. Physical and chemical barriers. Skin and the mucosal and glandular surfaces provides us the body's first line of defense. Okay, here the skin and the mucous membrane, that is skin is the largest organ of our body and it covers almost all parts of our body, and in some parts of our body are connected to the exterior world in case of gastrointestinal tract or respiratory tract or urinary system and that is reproductive tracts. Here this skin and the mucous membrane provides the body's first line of defense. That means when we compare our when we are told to imagine a house, we imagine house with walls and roof. Okay, and no stranger can immediately enter your house or enter our house without our permission. Okay, that skin and mucous membrane is like the house, that is it blocks entry for the pathogens of the exterior world into the interior of our body. This innate immunity, skin and the mucous membrane blocks entry of the pathogens from the exterior world into the interior of our body. Skin is the largest organ of our body, and skin is made up of a thin layer called epidermis and a thick layer called dermis. Okay, this epidermis consists of tiers of epithelial cells, and these epithelial cells secrete a variety of antimicrobial substances which are antibacterial or antimicrobial in nature. And dermis consists of many of the immune cells like macrophages and dendritic cells and mast cells. And this, from here in the dermis arises from the dermis, in the dermis layer present the sweat glands and the sebaceous glands, and which secretion is acidic in nature, and which acts against the pathogens or the which are antimicrobial in nature. Now these tracts, that is gastrointestinal tract, respiratory tract, and urinary tract, and these are male reproductive system and female reproductive tract. Okay, in all these systems body is connected to the exterior world. Our body is connected to the exterior world, so it is lined with the glandular layer or the mucous membrane. Okay, in these systems our body's openings are guarded with the mucous membrane. Mucous membrane secretes the mucus, that is goblet cells goblet cells secrete mucus, and this mucus contain glycoprotein called mucin. What mucin does is, for example, in the lower respiratory tract, mucin won't allow the bacteria or pathogens to attach into the epithelial cells of the respiratory tract. Okay, and in some usually we cough, or coughing is done to spit out the bacteria that is entrapped by the mucus. Okay, mucus entraps the bacteria which has entered into our respiratory tract, and it is spitted out of the respiratory tract or the respiratory system in order to protect our innermost organs or our body. Okay, and when it comes to the gastrointestinal tract or the alimentary canal, in mouth we take our food into the mouth, and in mouth the present salivary gland, and secretions of the salivary gland contains lysozyme. Okay, saliva contains lysozyme and secretory IgA antibodies which are antimicrobial in nature. And in the stomach there is acidic secretion which kills almost bacteria that has entered through the food. And when it comes to urinary tract, urine washes most of the microorganisms from our system. All these tracts, that is gastrointestinal tract or the respiratory tract and urinary tract and this reproductive tract, it consists of mucus secreting membranes, or mucus will be present in these membranes, and it will act as antimicrobial. Conjunctiva is present in eyes. In our eyes, conjunctiva is present, and conjunctiva is present in the white portion of our eye, that is sclera. Conjunctiva is a specialized mucus secreting membrane, and it is almost all the time it is kept moist by the secretion of the lacrimal gland. That is, secretion of the lacrimal gland is called tears. Okay, tears, and this tears has lysozyme and secretory IgA and other antimicrobial substances that protects our eye. Okay, you have already learned, or you have heard lysozyme many times. Okay, this lysozyme is a enzyme that acts against the microbes or bacteria by way of, that is, it blocks it degrades the peptidoglycan cell wall of the bacteria. Now coming to the second layer of defense, that is second line of defense, that is cellular responses. Okay, the pathogen has now entered into the, after reaching the epithelial layer, it enters into the second line of defense, that is cellular responses. Okay, here cellular responses or cellular defenses is provided by cells of the innate immunity like macrophage, dendritic cell and neutrophil, monocytes and eosinophils, basophils and natural killer cells, and even the endothelial cells of the blood vessels, and even the epithelial cells of the skin or the mucous membrane. Okay, here it is mentioned as pattern recognition receptor. Okay, pattern recognition receptor are present on the cells of the innate immune system and even cells of the adaptive immune system also. Okay, this pattern recognition receptors are either present on the plasma membrane, which are activated by the extracellular microbes. Okay, and when the pattern recognition receptor is present inside in the cytosol, it is activated by the pathogens that is present in the cytosol. And pattern recognition receptors can even be found in inside the endosome, and in the endosome it acts against the endocytosed bacteria. Okay, this pattern recognition receptor bind to which part? Binds to pathogen associated molecular patterns. Pattern recognition receptor, that is PRRs, bind to pathogen associated molecular patterns. These pathogen associated molecular patterns are present in the either bacteria or viruses or fungi or parasites. Okay, that is, pathogen associated molecular patterns are present in the pathogens, and pattern recognition receptor are present on our innate immune cells. Okay, so what happens? These pattern recognition receptors bind to pathogen associated molecular patterns. These pathogen associated molecular patterns can be either peptidoglycan cell wall component of the gram positive bacteria, or it can be a lipopolysaccharide cell wall component of gram negative bacteria, or it can be the nucleic acid component of the viruses, can be RNA, DNA, or even the protein of the virus, and even parasites also. Like, pattern recognition receptor bind to the pathogen associated molecular patterns of the fungi, virus, or the bacteria, or simply it is pathogens. There are many types of pattern recognition receptors, and in that like the major type of pattern recognition receptors are toll-like receptors. Okay, and these toll-like receptors functions as signaling receptors. When toll-like receptor binds to a pathogen associated molecular patterns of the bacterium, what it does, it signals the cells. It signals the cells to release finally, after when the bacterium binds to toll-like receptor, the cell is signaled to release cytokines, chemokines, and other antimicrobial substances. Not all the pattern recognition receptors induce phagocytosis, but some of the pattern recognition receptors induce phagocytosis. Okay, phagocytosis, that is how phagocytosis occurs. Let me see. Okay, here the pattern recognition receptor binds to the pathogen associated molecular patterns of the bacterium. Okay, orange color, it is bacterium. Okay, this pattern recognition receptor binds to the pathogen associated molecular patterns of the bacterium, and after that, this is by the invaginations of the phagocytic cell, that is called pseudopodia. Okay, and then this bacterium is ingested into the phagosome, that is bacterium is now inside a phagosome, and this phagosome fuses with the lysosome. Okay, you can see here phagosome has fused with the lysosome to become phagolysosome. Okay, and then that bacterium is digested to release the digestion product. Okay, it is digested by using the oxygen dependent mechanism or oxygen independent mechanism. The digestion products are released. And sometimes phagocytosis is not directly induced. Okay, some bacteriums cannot be easily recognized by the phagocytic cells. Okay, that time what happens is this bacteria that is not opsonized cannot be easily recognized by some phagocytic cells. Okay, that time what happens? Opsonization happens at that time. Okay, this opsonization is usually done by mannose binding lectin and C-reactive protein, or even the complement proteins. Okay, or even the antibodies. These antibodies or the opsonins binds to the bacterium, and it is now opsonized. Okay, opsonization means this process makes the or induces the phagocytosis. Like, it makes the bacterium more susceptible to phagocytosis. The bacterium initially it cannot be recognized by the phagocytic cell. After opsonization, it can easily be recognized by the phagocytic cells. Okay, here phagocytic cells now recognize this opsonized bacteria because those phagocytic cells have receptors called opsonin receptors. Okay, the phagocytic cell have opsonin receptors, and to which binds this opsonized bacteria, and phagocytosis of the opsonized bacteria takes place to release the digested products are released from the cell. Another type of innate immune response, that is inflammation or inflammatory response. Okay, how inflammation occurs? That is, you have seen, so like when the infection occurs or in some parts of our body or tissue, it becomes red and swelling occurs and you feel the pain and heat in that region of the infection. Okay, now we see how inflammation occurs. Okay, all those how it occurs. When the tissue is damaged or infection occurs in the site of the tissue, okay, the residing macrophage or the mast cells or the dendritic cells present in those tissue, what it releases, or the activated cells releases chemokines and pro-inflammatory cytokines and other substances like histamine and prostaglandins and many others. Okay, what it does, this pro-inflammatory cytokines and chemokines and the prostaglandins and that is histamine, it will induce the endothelial cells and it increases the extravasation, or like adhesion molecules will be expressed by the endothelial cell, and now these cells of the leukocytes migrate into the site of the infection or tissue, that is neutrophils and monocytes from the blood will now enter into the site of infection. Neutrophils, the major cells that enter into the site of infection or migrate into the site of infection is the neutrophil. Neutrophils are not present in a healthy tissue. Neutrophils are absent in healthy tissue, but only when the infection takes place, neutrophils migrate into the site of infection. Okay, this extravasation means migration of the leukocytes into the site of infection. Here redness and swelling occurs because permeability of these blood vessels has increased, and now the complement proteins or the blood proteins from the blood enters into the site of infection. Okay, and so it causes the redness in that area or swelling in that area. Okay, and heat, and it also pain is also, we feel pain in that infected area. That is because of the kinins. Kinins are nerve stimulator and that is responsible for pain. Okay, this is the inflammatory response, that is extravasation takes place, permeability of the endothelial cells increases and extravasation occurs that causes pain, redness, swelling and heat in that infected area. And it finally, what it does, this dendritic cells takes up the antigen or the bacteria and it will carry it into the nearby lymph node, and it will present that antigen into the T cells or the T cells, and it finally activates the adaptive immune system or acquired immunity is activated, or adaptive immunity is activated. Now another type of, or the main type of cells, like one type of cell that is part of innate immunity is natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are the innate lymphoid cells. Okay, it is innate lymphoid cell. That means it is similar to the cytotoxic T cells. It is similar to the cytotoxic T cells, but it is not, natural killer cells are not antigen specific. Okay, the natural killer cells are not antigen specific, but they kill or destroy the cells by same way like cytotoxic T cells destroy the cells by secreting granzymes and perforins. This natural killer cells also use perforins and granzymes. Okay, how natural killer cells destroy the cells? For example, when a virus infected cell is destroyed by natural killer cells, how is that? These virus infected cells have receptors to which, that is, antiviral antibodies will be bound. Okay, the receptors on the virus infected cell has bound antiviral antibodies. So natural killer cells finds that is antiviral antibodies will it finds that antiviral antibodies and destroy the virus infected cell, and it also destroys the tumor infected cells or tumor cells. How it destroys the tumor cells is that in case of tumor cells, the expression of MHC molecules, that is which usually expressed by the normal cells, but in case of tumor cells, expression of MHC molecules will be very less, and that natural killer cells finds that, or it can It can know this is tumor cell because expression of the MSC molecule, which is usual for the other healthy cells, it is now it is less expressed in less amounts in case of the tumor cells. So natural killer cells destroy these tumor cells, okay, and it also destroys the virus infected cells. But natural killer cells are not antigen specific, okay, not like the T cells. T cells are highly antigen specific. These are the lymphoid cells. Natural killer cells are the innate lymphoid cell. Thank you for watching. If you have liked this video, means you can like it.